Hey, what's up guys, it's Dlsturbedx, and today I'm going to be showing you guys the best DPS build for patch 1.3. I've looked at all the new gear sets, tried many different gear combinations, but this is still the best set just for doing flat out damage. Now before everybody gets mad at me, this build doesn't actually show that I'm doing 800k DPS, that's just because the stat is actually broken and inaccurate. But if you really do the math, I am actually doing over 800k DPS with my weapons. One thing to quickly mention is that my build is really far from perfect. There are a ton of things that I can do to improve it, like getting more 268 gear pieces, better weapons, better mods, etc. And in this video, I'll actually go over what the absolute perfect build is and tell you guys what exactly is wrong with mine and what you can improve upon. Just know that my stats can definitely be better. So the gear set I'm running is 5 pieces of Sentrys Call because the headshot damage, the damage to elites, and the 4-set bonus allow you to do much more damage than any other gear set in the game currently. And for the last piece, I'm using Savage Gloves so that I can get my crit chance really high with my sniper rifle. Now if you're having problems with fire, or you're doing the new Incursion, or you're getting grenaded a lot or something like that, you can easily switch out the 5th Sentry piece and the Savage Gloves and put on 2 pieces of Final Measure, but you lose out on a lot of extra damage that way. And I mainly farm the Dark Zone myself, and I don't really have that many problems with fire and stuff, but you definitely can make that build and still do a lot of damage. So all in all, you want 5 pieces of Sentrys Call and Savage Gloves in order to do maximum damage. Now looking at my firearms, my stamina, and my skill power, I have 3,087 firearms, and it's really only that high so that I'm able to activate the talents on my 229 weapons. And then I have 3,378 stamina, which lets me go over 100k health and be pretty tanky. And then my skill power is actually pretty low, sitting at only 15k, and I'll go over how you can get more skill power in a little bit. But just when it comes to your firearms and your stamina, just make sure you have at least 2,828 firearms to activate the talents on your 229 weapons, and then put the rest of your stats into stamina. One quick thing to mention is that you want to make sure that you hit armor cap. I'll go over how you can do that exactly, but with the new 268 gear set pieces having much higher armor rolls, you shouldn't really have that much of a problem getting there. But you definitely want to make sure that you reach armor cap, but also just pretty much get one-shotted by almost everything. Now looking at your weapons, primarily you want to use a sniper rifle such as the SVD or the M1A so that you can get your Sentrys Call marks on enemies and increase everybody's damage by over 50% while still doing a lot of damage yourself. I'm using an M1A that has capable, proficient, and deadly. It's not amazing, but it's still pretty good, and it's 229, so I'm not complaining. Just try to get an SVD or an M1A with good talents though. A few good ones to look for are Destructive, Brutal, Deadly, Prepared, Capable, Fierce if it's the 3rd talent, and Ferocious if it's the 3rd talent. There's a few other good talents, but I'm not really going to go over all of them. Just try to get at least one of those talents and you should be pretty fine. In terms of modding your sniper rifle, you want headshot damage and crit chance on the scope. For the magazine, you want magazine size and weapon damage. I don't have one with weapon damage, so I'm using crit chance for the time being. And for your muzzle, you want horizontal stability and crit chance. I don't have one with crit chance, so I'm using crit damage. It's alright, but crit chance is definitely the way to go. Now for your secondary weapon, there's a lot of different things that you can use. Shotguns are really good because you can apply the marks with them, but they're really risky because you have to be close to enemies to maximize your damage. But they're definitely really good, and with the recent buff in patch 1.3, they're really viable. But SMGs are great, but they don't really have a lot of range. LMGs and assault rifles are pretty good too. It really just depends on what you like to use personally and what gun you have with the best talents. I myself have a G36 with some pretty good talents, and it's a lot of fun to use, so that's what I'm using right now. For modding it, you want crit chance and headshot damage on your scope, weapon damage and magazine size on the magazine. Again, I don't have one with that, so I'm just using crit damage at the moment. For the grip, it's really up to you. I like to hip fire a lot, so I have hip fire accuracy and accuracy, but if you get one with stability, it's really good for controlling your recoil. And for your muzzle, you want crit chance and stability. Again, I don't have one with crit chance, so mine just has accuracy and crit damage, which works fine for me. And for your pistol, it really doesn't matter that much. Now we're going to look at the gear pieces in depth, and make sure to get everything like that I have it, or like I say that you should get it, so that you're doing the maximum damage. For your chest piece, you want to make sure that it has armor and damage to elites on it. You need that armor to hit armor cap, and the damage to elites will help out with your DPS a lot. If you want, you can reroll one of the mod slots to get exotic damage resilience. Just remember that all chests now come with 2 mod slots, so it's really hard to reroll them because, god rolls are really scarce and RNG isn't the nicest thing in the game. But if you can reroll it, definitely do that. Moving on to your mask, mine is pretty crappy because it only has 2 mod slots, and if I could, I would definitely reroll these for damage to elites. Some of you might say it's better to get skill power instead of damage to elites, but an additional 12% damage is much more helpful than only 4k skill power. Trust me on that. And for your minor attributes, try to get enemy armor damage. I really wasn't able to get it, but if you do, it will help out with your DPS a ton. For your knee pads, you want crit damage and a mod slot, but if you aren't able to hit armor cap, you can definitely reroll that mod slot for armor. And for your minor attributes, just make sure to get enemy armor damage because it helps out a lot with your DPS. For your backpack, you want crit damage and skill power. Mine has a mod slot on it because I had to reroll for crit damage, but if I could, I'd reroll the mod slot for 7k skill power. Now for your gloves, make sure they have Savage on them, and you want crit damage, crit chance, and damage to elites. There's basically no debating this here, just make sure to get all of those because they're all really important for your DPS. Now that's it for all of the gear pieces. In terms of modding your gear, just make sure that the bonuses either have armor if you need it to hit armor cap, or skill power. Crit chance is also kind of helpful, but I think that skill power is ultimately just way better. So that's it for all of your gear. Now moving on to your abilities. I'm using Pulse with Tactical Scanner for the extra crit chance and crit damage, but if someone else on your team is running Pulse, I'd say either use Smart Cover with Recharger for extra damage and damage resistance, or you can use Sticky Bomb with Flashbang in order to stun your enemies, which is pretty nice and is really good for supply drops. And then for the second skill, you need First Aid with Overdose. There's pretty much no debating this because NPCs do so much damage here now, so using this is basically a must. Now moving on to your talents, firstly you want On the Move, which reads kill a hostile while moving to reduce incoming damage by 30% for 10 seconds. This is great because you typically are killing enemies while moving, so you'll have 30% damage reduction up for a lot of the time, which is also really nice. Next we have Precision, which is absolutely amazing, which pulses enemies when you headshot them, which actually increases your crit chance by 12.8% and your crit damage by 25.6% exactly. Just by itself, this makes your damage go up by a ton, so definitely make sure to get that talent. It's probably one of the best in the game, especially for using Sentry's Call. Next, you want to use One is None because it returns bullets right back in your magazine and lets you shoot more before you have to reload, which again is just a huge DPS increase. And lastly, you want Critical Save, which increases your damage resistance by 40% when you use a medkit at low health, which just gives you that little bit of extra amount of survivability when you need it, which is also really helpful. Some of you might say that using Combat Medic is better, but they actually made it to where it doesn't instantly heal you to full health anymore, so it kind of sucks the way that it is right now, but you definitely want to use Critical Save. So that's pretty much it for the build, guys. I really hope this helped. If it did, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe for videos similar to this one. Have fun with the build, and I'll see you later, guys. Peace.